The Cathedral. Sub-Level 3. Cyber Surgery. The plaque on the wall read, "Until all of us can be free, none of us should be free." The hall we had emerged into announced research and surgery in one direction, administration in the other. Both paths seeming otherwise equal. I had chosen the former, suspecting that there was a fair chance of running across Red Eye himself in administration. And that wasn't my goal. I was here for his prisoners, his sacrifices, not him. I was more than happy to leave him to the Enclave. I was regretting that decision now. The smell of blood, spoiled meat, and disinfectants hit my nostrils like a buck in the face, making me turn and gag. Reggie recoiled, and I could hear the muffled sound of Calamity's many, many guns clattering together as he staggered. The wall of the surgical labs were gleaming, disinfected white, that made every flaw and discoloration and old stain stand out. The floor tiles were cold and unpleasantly damp. There were highly advanced machines built into the walls and ceiling, half of which I couldn't even guess the purpose of. There were vats of strange liquid, and floating within them were a variety of cybernetics. My eyes took in a mechanical snake that resembled a pony's spine, a robotic leg that clearly wasn't for a pony, metal arms that could have been torn from a cleaning robot, and more esoteric devices. Strings and wire ending in arcanotech bobules. There were 3 exits. One was the way we came in, the hallway leading to the administration section of the sublevel. The one opposite it led to the stairs down. The final door, directly across from me, was open to what the sign claimed was a storage room. Huge glass tubes displayed creatures and monsters, subjects of cybernetic experimentation. All were dead, many splayed open from surgery. Everything from rad roaches to manticores. There was even a hellhound, or, at least, half of one. The left half. At the back end of the room was a cast iron hatch marked Disposal. Most of the stench was coming from that storage room. Only a little from the meat on several of the tables surrounding me. "And how may I help you?" the thing in front of us asked. He had been a pony once, but now he was far more machine than flesh, the whole lower half of his body replaced by a robotic chassis that reminded me of the brain bots in iron-shod firearms. Mechanical arms, like those of the hovering spider bots, each ending in different tools or manipulators, flexed and moved about him, carrying out unspoken tasks of medicine and science. It only saw Regina, but my heart began beating like a frightened rabbit every time it looked my way. Reggie flinched away as one of those arms moved towards her, probing. "Nothing. I'm fine." "Fine? Yes, I suppose," the creature said, "but you could be better." I felt myself cringe. "Better?" Regina questioned skeptically. "Like you?" "Indeed. You should have seen me before the grenade." The creature chuckled. "I know the looks take a bit to get used to, but old Doc Slaughter has never been better." Several of the arms paused their tasks to wave. "And you can't imagine just how useful these are. Well, maybe you could, being a griffin." His chassis turned, extending one arm in particular, one that ended in mechanical talons. Reggie took an involuntary step back, looking repulsed. Dr. Slaughter. I knew that name. Oh, and tag her to see Dr. Slaughter. She's got one of the leg terminals that are a bitch to get off. He was in Philadelphia. I narrowly avoided losing my pip-buck to him. "You created the Cyber Dragon, didn't you?" Reggie surprised me by asking. "Oh yes, probably my best work," Dr. Slaughter said proudly, his chassis spinning around, as the arms scurried about their tasks. A most unique opportunity. Poor thing's body was failing right off from underneath it. He was blind when Red-Eye brought me to him, and he could barely fly, failing ticker. Red-Eye offered the dragon new eyes, and more, for half his gems. He purred wistfully. And just look at him now, stronger, faster, more powerful and lethal than he was in his prime. If he wanted this new life so badly, why is he out there risking it? My dear, you say that as if he might be harboring a death wish or something, Dr. Slaughter said, the tracks on his chassis spinning, delivering him from one side of the lab to the other. But that is not the case at all. He simply has no other choice. No other choice? Red-Eye enslaved a dragon? We heard explosions and the sounds of rapid-fire magical energy weapons. They sounded like they were coming from the floor above us. Red-Eye wasn't going to have a creature that powerful and dangerous in the Everfree Forest without having it on a leash, you know. The cyberdoc explained, ignoring the battle that was quickly catching up to us. So, when we replaced the dragon's heart with a newer, better one, Red-Eye had me install a matrix disruption grenade in there with it. Red-Eye sends a signal, the dragon turns off. The griffin arm clanked its talons together, just like that. That's horrible, Reggie gasped, and really stupid. Now he has a super powerful dragon who hates him. Hates him? Dr. Slaughter laughed. Not at all. The dragon loves his new body, and Red-Eye isn't foolish enough to abuse the situation. The dragon's cage is very gilded. Another explosion caused the lights to flicker and a few tiles to drop from the ceiling. This time, even the cyberdoc reacted. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to seal up this lab. I am expecting a new patient, and we can't be disturbed. Suddenly, dangerously familiar classical music began pouring through the intercoms. It was followed a moment later by Red-Eye's voice, the voice of the older, wasteland-hardened stallion I knew too well. Now that our esteemed guests have arrived, I thought I'd help to make you feel at home. This is one of your favorites, right, Autumn Leaf? His tone was pleasant, as if the whole battle and all the pain and blood that came with it was nothing more than a rapping at the door. I admire your taste, Autumn. May I call you Autumn? I do agree that Octavia never performed a more splendid and perfect recorded performance. Yes, I know her works well. Grew up with them. In a softer, weary voice, he couldn't prevent himself from adding, she was an earth pony, after all. As we scurried to leave, the cyberdoc added, he even let him keep all his gems. The cathedral, sub-level 4. We were almost there. Almost where I was sure I needed to be. The markings on the doors labeled this level as Meta Pony Testing. The inscription over the main door read, we ascend together, or we fail together. The walls were of mottled brown stone that seemed to be secreting a thick layer of slime. Reggie grimaced in disgust. This place just gets worse and worse. What'd you think it means? Meta Pony Testing? Calamity asked, his voice suggesting he knew the answer and really hoped he was wrong. I think it means exactly what you think it means, I answered, gloomily. There was only one way to go this time, and that was through a sealed vault door up ahead. An access terminal was mounted on the nearby wall. Once again, no clouds, just regular, hackable goodness. The way you talk, I didn't think your stealth missions tended to go this smoothly, Regina commented, pulling out her guns and checking the load. I ain't complaining, just I'm afraid if I don't get to shoot something soon, I might forget how. Unity. The password was Unity. I felt cheated. He wasn't even trying. Entering the password gave me access to the terminal's contents. The first option unlocked the vault door and opened it, but beneath it, I was surprised to see a number of scientific journal entries. Curiosity pushed me to glance at the first. The contents drove me to read the others. Entry number 5. What a fucking waste of my valuable time. Now I have to scrape the whole motherfucking IMP experiments. Red fucking I wants to take the research in a new direction. One failure too many. Like you can make a fucking omelet without a few generations of dead chickens. I told his imminent godness that the guidance factor may be just more than a generic, but what the fuck do I know? I'm just a motherfucking scientist, and he's a glorified fucking scout. How can I argue against that? Now, he's got me looking at some him-damned piece of shit rock. Like, I don't have better things to do. Do I look like a fucking geologist? Entry number 4. Accumulation of 2 years of experience, and I can write what we learned on a fucking napkin. You know what that tastes like? It tastes like a cunt that's been shit on. There are 5 stages of impelled metamorphosis development in a viable subject. The first 3 levels are well documented in my research journals, the most significant being incremental changes to the subject's relationship to and tolerance of radiation. Radiation-induced regeneration, even to the point of regrowing limbs, begins at the first stage and radically improves in the second. When the subject reaches the third stage of implied metamorphosis development, the subject's body actually becomes stronger and faster in the presence of radiation, similar to the glowing ghoul and a precursor to the super-alicorn phenomenon. The subject's healing becomes so advanced that the natural aging process is all but halted. The fourth stage involves underlying physiological changes in preparation for the fifth and final stage, complete metamorphosis. For example, the pony's body and mind begin to grow the necessary neurological structures that will allow the pony to utilize the new horn and or wings in the final stage will bestow, as well as other substructure changes in support of the less obvious but more radical alterations that accompany becoming a fucking alicorn. It is at this time that everything goes fuck all with a speeding enema. The impelled metamorphosis potion was never intended to be administered in stages. The most pleasant of the side effects to stage 4 can be described as phantom limb syndrome. The false sensation experienced by the subjects appeared to be constant and amazingly painful. Subjects in the fourth stage are inevitably driven to seek out more exposure, or simply driven utterly batwing shit insane. All too often, both. The real problem comes with the extremely narrow bridge between the third stage and the fourth, and with what I have deemed the guidance factor. First, it is proven virtually impossible to expose a pony to enough IMP to bring them to the third stage without crossing the threshold to the fourth. The few examples of successfully stable third stage subjects have all been in the wild under unrepeatable circumstances, which is too fucking bad, since stage 3s have capabilities that give Doc Slaughter's vaulted enhancements a run for their bits. Second, I have determined that successful metamorphosis requires more than just sufficient exposure. It requires a sort of guidance through the process. In the case of existing alicorns, guidance is given by the goddess. Whether this is a product of some intentional nurturing or an environmental response is unclear. Well, it's unclear to fucking me. Red-Eye has this template theory, and has pretty much stopped listening to any fucking thing else. As a side note, I hate that freakin' nature bastard upstairs. You know, maybe when a grenade blows off your legs and tears up the whole side of your torso, that's a sign for you to just fucking die. Entry number 3. Fuck. I lost another assistant. Not to a lab accident this time. No. That little cancerous prick decided to bail on me and pursue his own demented research some fucking where else. Him and his fucking manticore fixation. What a tale full of shit. He was a useful assistant, particularly since he didn't need to sleep. Now, I will have to autopsy subjects number 128 and 129 myself. And I'll have to refill the fucking lanterns on my own. Yet another waste of my time. I'll be missing the fucking bastards by tomorrow. Won't miss his stink, though. Speaking of stink, they're finally putting the new disposal chute in. Slaughter's getting his part put in tomorrow. It's going to take them a fucking week to get around to putting mine in. I swear, that fucker Red-Eye gives preferential treatment to cybernetics. And then he comes down here, clamoring for results. Says he's getting sick of sending me ponies, only to have them tossed out with the waste. Like Red-Eye should fucking talk. At least my research is doing something fucking useful. Asswipe. Entry number 2. Finally perfected the induced metamorphosis potion recipe. Would have done it sooner if that psycho Twilight Sparkle hadn't been so fucking OCD with her notes. Now that we've got the manticore shit out of the way, the bucks downstairs can start whipping up whole vats of the juice. Still not sure why the fuck this self-importance Red-Eye wants this so much. Is he planning on going swimming? Be funny if he did, actually. I'd love to see the fucker's whole body become a bloated, misshapen blob of metasized living cancer. That'd be fucking hilarious. So far, the initial numbers have held. We've had a solid 18% benevolent effect manifestation in test subjects. Not ideal, but I'd say it's a fuck ton better than we really could have expected, and more than enough excuse to increase the scales of our tests. My assistant has expressed particular interest in one of our failed cross-species tests. Of course, I fully expect all cross-species tests to fail. IMP was crafted specifically for ponies, after all, but the effects on the other creatures could continue to yield enlightening results. The test that my assistant is most interested in, however, is the one that produced the least results. In fact, it produced no results at all. All the other creatures tested had some reaction, most of them violent and fatal. But I might as well have been shooting a concentrated fucking placebo into that manticore. Useless, unless looking pissed off was an effect. IMP failed to have any effect on it. What so fucking ever. On that note, I've ordered a more convenient waste disposal system. We've got passages under this place that dump into the gorge, so why not use them to flush some of this stink out of here? Entry number 1. New project today. About fucking time. Last one was a pointless disaster. Why does the world want to fucking keep wasting my valuable fucking time? Got a good feeling about this one, though. That pompous prick Red-Eye got a hold of some pre-war fancy mains recipe for the crap the taint is made out of. The shit the goddess uses to fucking create alicorns. So far, 4 out of 5 test subjects have responded with some grotesque body-warping deaths. But that last 1 in 5? Very promising indeed. The entries were stamped from the personal files of Dr. Glue, head of the Metapony research. I stepped back from the terminal, feeling cold and hearty. Subject number 129. I whispered hoarsely. This pony had murdered over 100 ponies in his experiments for Red-Eye. Probably double that. And other creatures, too. Tortured them to death. With taint. I felt a ruddy darkness seeping into my vision. a drive to violence mounting in every beat of my heart, the likes of which I hadn't felt since Arbrew. My nerves were on fire. I kicked on my eyes forward sparkle, barely taking note of the new signal it had discovered, or the fact that it helpfully announced I had found Stable 101, and ordered the terminal to open the door. I was really hoping Dr. Glue was behind it, because I was going to kill him. A lot. The door opened to a chamber of horrors, a catacomb for the horrifically malformed and mutated byproducts of Dr. Glue's experiments, lit sporadically by mounted lanterns, many of which were dark and cold. Ponies with massive tumors enveloping their heads, ponies whose internal organs had been pushed out through their coats by the cancerous masses evolving inside them, ponies who had dissolved into bubbling, leathery slugs that looked like a hospital horror's miscarriage, discernible only as ponies by the warped remains of their cutie marks. Worse. The strands of classical music were being piped down here as well, a twisted counterpoint to the vileness. The music was defiled by being played in here. I didn't think I'd ever be able to enjoy Octavia's artistry again. Regina Greenfeathers was vomiting in a corner. I wanted to clap my eyes shut against the horror, but I was afraid I would still see them, so I covered my face with my pip leg instead, staring at the screen. My eyes' forward sparkle was picking up a flood of red lights ahead. "Oh, my soul," Calamity whispered. He had tossed back his hood, and was staring in dismay at a body whose bones and undergore had undergone a rapid and twisted growth, bursting through muscles and flesh that had turned black and slimy. "I think that used to be a griffin." Reggie's head shot up. She approached the body, spitting the last of the vomit from her mouth, her breast heaving heavily. "What? How?" With mounting rage that echoed my own. "Why?" She swung around to Calamity. "How could any pony do that? What was the point?" "I couldn't say," Calamity began, taken aback. Then, his voice grew sharp. "But as my gal Velva would say, any pony who would do that ain't a pony." Voices echoed from within the catacombs ahead, and one of them was recognizable. "Fan out," Colonel Autumn Leaf ordered. "The coward ran this way, and if you find him, do not kill him. Just wound him. Excessively. That bastard is mine." Eyes wide with recognition, Calamity vanished under the hood of his zebra cloak. I scooted against the wall, and Reggie moved against the bodies, playing dead, as two Enclave soldiers galloped around the corner and charged past us. Reggie stepped out behind us as they passed, leveling her guns, but then lowered them, letting the two soldiers disappear. "Stealth mission," she gouged. "I bet bits to bottle caps. I'm going to regret that later."